Hello, and welcome once again to Life That Matters. My name is Dr. Sharon Norris Elliott.
And I'm Lady Laura Simon.
And we are in a conversation about trouble. Don't turn it off. Because I can hear you. I got enough trouble of my own. I don't need to hear nothing about. No, yes, we do. We need to sit down together and talk about the trouble. Now, we are not talking about the troubles in the world, although we could.
We could.
But we're not going to do that. We're not getting into the political stuff. You know,
No,
we're not
ma'am.
getting into the war. I mean,
No.
okay. We already know that the Word of God tells us there's going to be wars and rumors of wars, and nations are going to rise up against nations. And
we're doing that right now.
Okay.
We got you.
We can't do anything about that.
Not a thing.
Talking about that
Nope.
is not going to do anything.
No.
Right?
No.
But we still have to live a life within the context of everything that's going on. And we are concentrating on our being able to live according to the Word of God.
Yes, live.
Because God has made some promises to his people.
Some promises to his people.
Right. He loves us.
He loves us.
Grace comes our way. Favor comes our way. Healing comes our way. There's a lot of stuff that God has said will be a part of our existence that will benefit us from being believers.
Benefit.
Okay. So we like to talk with you about how we jack that up. Basically. Now that used to be a slang term when I was a teenager, jacking up. You jacked it all up. That means you messed it up.
Messed it up.
Right? And we have the lovely tendency to just mess things up.
I do. I'm going to own it.
Okay? We mess things up for ourselves.
Oh, I do.
You know, sometimes we don't like to admit it. We mess things up for our children. We can mess things up for our church. So we like to talk about family feuds and church hurt and things of that nature. But we still have to come to grips with the fact that we are part of that.
We're very much so
Right.
a part of it.
We're a part of it.
Yeah.
We're in it.
Right.
And so how do we live this Christian life and deal with the troubles that come? We looked at Job, who's just the quintessential
He's the guy.
example of trouble coming his way. And
He had the trouble. Then his wife, I know you like to say, we give her a bad rap.
we give Mrs.
We
Job a
do,
bad
but
time.
you know,
Because Mrs. Job lost all her kids too. She was
exactly.
She was depressed and all of that.
Exactly.
And
I think of myself in Miss Job. I do.
Sometimes when we're upset or depressed, we say the wrong thing.
Say the wrong thing. You know, let me tell you something about God and trouble. When you say you bring it on yourself. When I was very young, okay, stay with me. I'm going to go somewhere with this. Okay. So when I had Kennedy, and I don't know about you. I don't know about
this is the first baby.
I don't know about some moms.
Is this the first baby?
This is the first baby.
Okay.
So I had Kennedy, and so I was, she was maybe like 8 months old.
Oh, okay.
9 months
Infant.
old. 9 months old. She was a baby. And I'm going to say this because we get ourselves in trouble. I did not want to have a baby that close to Kennedy.
Okay, you didn't want to have another baby.
I didn't want to have another. I didn't want to have the second baby.
Like, let Kennedy grow.
Yeah, I wanted Kennedy to like be 2, right?
Okay.
I had, Tony and I had planned how we were going to do our space out the kids.
Sure.
Okay. I'm an only child, so I wanted 3.
Okay.
And my mom said, "Oh, please, you don't even know how to deal with yourself, but whatever." That's how it was going. Now, I don't know for anybody who's listening to this being the mother or the person that you're going through. So I, when you're married, you do married things, and then married things happen.
Right.
And I was pregnant.
With a baby 8 months old.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes, okay? So I was not happy.
You were
Okay,
not
when we get to
happy.
trouble, okay? So now, of course, no, I did not think of the A word.
Right.
None of that, right? But I was really, 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 really upset. And I was really, 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 really upset with God. Right? Okay, I'm just telling y'all.
Like, poor God. What?
Yeah, I want someone who is feeling special to understand, which goes back to last show. When we're in trouble, we have to be honest with God. Okay? There's no sense in not telling God the truth.
Right.
And so I told God the truth in my mind. I told God the truth in my journal. I told the truth to God, and then I told Tony.
Ooh.
Now, Tony's the pastor, and we're supposed to be good church people.
Yes.
And I told Tony, I said what I wanted to say to God, right?
Yes.
Okay? And I said, I have stopped talking to God.
I'm done.
I am done. Because he allowed this to happen.
He allowed it.
And I'm done.
He allowed it. Yes.
And Tony said, now, Laura, you can't
I know,
be that way.
I know
Reverend
Pastor Tony Simon. And
he said, you cannot be that way. Trouble.
Yes.
And so for 3 weeks.
Ooh.
3 weeks.
You put God on punishment.
I did not talk to God, nor did I read my Bible. And
you didn't let him talk to you.
And Tony, I did not let him talk to me. And Tony was trying to pray with me at night and talk about Jesus. And I said, I don't want to hear any of that because I cannot believe I have an 8-month-old and really he would allow this. Okay? So this is what I mean by sabotage your own trouble.
Right. Now the time when you need
I need God the most.
Keeping that baby healthy and keeping you healthy and keeping you like, God, you're on punishment.
I did not talk to God. And this is what I mean about believing. And when I did listen, it was, you wanted 3 kids. I don't want 3 kids now.
It's like, wow.
Yeah. And Tony I'm 30 years old.
Yeah.
And he's like, what? Are you really saying that? And so
he's like backing up from the lightning bolt.
Yeah. So after those 3 weeks, you know what? I did have a miscarriage.
Oh no.
I did. And after the fact, Tony was like, you don't even know what they were to be, you just were. That wasn't good, right? But Miss Sharon and folks, even though I was sad, and really, I did have a talk with Jesus after the fact. Trouble. Family trouble.
Yes.
Physical trouble.
Yes.
And I had a lot of that afterwards. 2 ectopics.
Wow.
And God delivered. But that trouble was brought on by me. And so when I think of Job and Abraham, and Sarai, we do things, we say things that we ought not.
Yes.
And then that brings on trouble. But God, who is such an amazing God,
an amazing
forgave
lover
me
of our souls.
after I asked for forgiveness. But some trouble we bring on ourselves.
And the consequences.
The consequences. There you go.
You know, we're thinking, oh, well, God hasn't forgiven you.
Yes, he forgave me.
He forgave. He forgave. He has forgiven the sins you're about to do tomorrow on the cross.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that he's looking forward to you doing them. He just happens to know because he's God and he's omniscient. He knows everything.
He knows everything.
He knows that sin you're going to do tomorrow. And now that, that can blow your mind.
And that's why when you get in trouble, you need to go to the Father. You need to go to him. So when you were talking about we need to go to the instruction, but we need to go to the Word of God, line it up and pray. You're absolutely right. If anything, when you get in trouble, what we're saying to you guys today is you want to go to God.
Yeah.
Period.
Go to God. Let the first thought start, whatever you have to do. If you have to put a reminder on your phone, if you have to write it out. I'm an index card woman, right? Or a sticky note person. If you have to write it out somewhere, all around your house until it becomes that habit, just write out, go to God.
Yeah.
Just stick it on, go to God.
Yeah.
Go to God.
Go to God.
And he will come through with his word. He will come through on the pages of his word. He will come through on the lips of your Christian friends.
That part.
He will come through in the sermon. He will come through. He will come through in nature. He will come through.
He's gonna come through.
Right. With his answers.
Right.
Okay. Even though the verse that we've been starting with is that man that is born of a woman is a few days and full of trouble.
Full of trouble.
Right.
Full of trouble.
But this Christian life can be, and especially according to the New Testament, and since we have Jesus, it is a life of joy.
Right.
Despite how crazy we are.
That's that right there. How crazy we are. And full of trouble we are.
Right. So as we had looked, we were looking at Abram and his mistake in taking Lot, who is his nephew, along with him when God called him. All right. So Lot is with them, and then Lot became a lot of trouble.
Lot became a lot of trouble.
Lot became
a liability. Lot became just trouble. Every time, Lot was trouble.
Yeah.
Lot was trouble for Abram. Yeah.
But Abram stuck it out.
Yeah. Rescuing him.
Right.
Doing all kind of stuff that he didn't have to do had he not brought him.
Had he not brought him. So we recommend that you read Genesis chapters 12 through about 16-ish.
16-ish. Because even when you get to the family feud, and you also, there's family issues. You can talk about how they were all on the land couldn't hold them because they had too much stuff. And then
we go into Sodom.
Yep.
Because it was Lot who
and he
was
had to
at
go
Sodom
get him.
and Gomorrah. So you need to go all the way through chapter 19.
Yeah.
So 12 to 19. And what we recommend is that you read it as if it were a story.
Yes.
Like that. Just that portion.
Just that portion.
Pull it out, 12 to 19 of Genesis, and read it like you were reading a magazine article.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Read it in one sitting. It's not going to take you that long. It's not that much. So that you could get the whole overall idea, right? And follow what happens with Lot and Abram. There are other things that come in there, and you can go back later and talk about some of that.
But there's two things I want you to talk about. Just hit on. One, your thoughts on taking Lot. Abram shouldn't have taken. Yeah, you talk about that.
Right.
And then two, what I also thought about, which we should, when you read it, have your mind open to that. Because Abram did his dirt, Sarai did hers, Sarai who became Sarah. But had he not done what he does or did,
Who is the he?
Abram.
Okay, go ahead.
With Lot and all that, because when he lied about who Sarai was, you know, that little blended thing.
Yeah.
Okay, when the king said, Pharaoh said, go, not the king, not Pharaoh.
Right.
The king said, look, you get on, take all your stuff, and then all the stuff that he had given him, he says, you and your family, take your wife, and you go. And so it says he took his family and everything that the king had given him too,
right,
which was servants.
Right.
So there were some girls and boys.
Right.
Hagar was in that number.
Right.
You don't have that. You don't have chapter 16.
Okay.
But about Lot. Not just Lot, but trouble. Abram, trouble on his own. And then Sarai with her beautiful idea, but that wouldn't, it was just such a beautiful idea. You wouldn't even have that beautiful idea in Hagar had Hagar not been in the stuff that Abram received because he lied about.
Right.
All that. Trouble. So I wanted you to talk about that very beginning.
Well, okay, so let's finish saying, look at the whole story of Lot.
Yes.
Look at the trouble with Lot and Abram. So we're looking at, we have trouble when we take things with us that we ought not take.
Say that again.
We have trouble when we take things with us that we ought not take.
Everybody can't go with you. Your journey that God has told you to go on, everybody can't go, even if you want them to go with you.
Exactly.
Even if you want them to go with you. Everybody can't go with you.
Everybody is not a part of your purpose.
Ooh, everybody's not a part of your purpose. Everybody is. Yes. Somebody needs to hear this today. I just feel it in my spirit.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So now we've got Abram. So we've got the Abram and Lot thing happening. And this is another thing about trouble. Trouble doesn't just happen in a vacuum. There will be more than one thing going on in your life.
In your life.
Right.
There will be more than one thing.
Church, family, friendships. There's more than one thing going on at a time. All right. And God intends for us to live all of those in the right way. So let's now transition from Lot, looking at Abram and Sarai with their own family issues. So once again, here they were. Now, it wasn't their plan to be barren.
It wasn't their plan.
Okay.
Right.
They figured it was going to go like with anybody else. You get married, you have kids.
You have kids.
And then God had promised
this
great
He's going to have a whole bunch of
progeny.
Yes.
This great progeny of children.
Yes.
And so they're excited. But as the years go on, they get
old.
They get older. He was 75 when he left to go on this journey. Abram was 75 years old already.
And she was 60.
Okay, so.
Because I'm going to be 60.
10 more years, you get to 85. And they still hadn't had any kids. So, in the meantime, Abram had this little issue that Lady Laura just talked about when they got into Egypt, because there was a famine and they go down to Egypt. And the Pharaoh saw, he figured, these men down there are going to see you, and they're going to see how beautiful you are. Now, we're talking about a 70-year-old woman, okay, and her beauty. Like, anyway.
Okay.
They're going to see you. They're going to kill me so they can take you. So here's what I need you to do. I need you to say you're my sister. Now, we find out later that technically, they were brother and sister. They didn't have, both parents weren't the same.
Right.
But she was his wife.
She was his wife.
Right. And so.
Which supersedes
the
everything.
Sister issue.
Yes.
So, and back then in those days, you could do that.
You could do that.
And so, when Abram, like Lady Laura said, when the whole thing was uncovered, Pharaoh said, get out and take all this stuff with here. I'm going to give you all these things to take.
Give you this stuff.
Now that felt like a really good answer.
He was rich. Now he's richer.
Twice as rich. You know, in things and flocks and servants. But there was this one little servant, Hagar, who was just a beautiful girl, beautiful black woman, by the way. And she got into the mix just when Abraham and Sarai are dealing once again with the fact that they still don't have any children.
And she jumped ahead.
Yes. So Sarai jumps ahead of God and uses a system that, again, was accepted at the time.
At the time.
That if you owned servants, anything that belonged to your servant actually belonged to the master or the mistress.
It was you, yeah.
It was yours. And so Sarai, to make a long story short, Sarai gave Hagar to her husband
to
impregnate her,
dummy.
Hagar. And then the baby that Hagar would have would, by, you know, the way things were done back then, would belong to Sarai. And then, bam, yes, now we have a descendant.
Now we have an heir.
Now we have an heir.
Wrong.
Now,
wrong
God let them do that.
He let them do that. He allowed them.
He could have stopped it, because Abram, if you read the whole story, Abram's always hearing God's voice. So he knew what God sounded like. So what God did, God was just like, and I believe God was kind of like, let me watch this fool.
Let me see it unfold. Let me just watch.
How far are they really going to go? And then it was like, they really? What?
And even back to trouble, to say how Sarai has everything. Sarai first, because that's what she still was. Had issues with herself, which goes back to what we do. She knew it was her. She was barren because she has Abram go sleep with her.
Yeah, right. Okay, so they have this boy. They have Ishmael. Abraham loves his son.
Yeah.
It's his son. And then God comes. This is a pre-incarnate visit of Jesus Christ. Comes to Abraham. And in the midst of the conversation about what's going on in Sodom and Gomorrah, where, by the way, Lot, his wife, and his daughters are. Okay.
Trouble.
In the midst of that, Jesus says to Abraham, and by the way, Sarah's going to have a kid.
This time next year.
And Sarah's like,
she's laughing to herself.
please. Okay, and then we get Isaac.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And then Sarah's mad. Well, Hagar has her own issues. We're all sinners, saved by grace now. But Hagar has her own issues because as soon as she found out she was pregnant by the big master, she was like, come on, hey, I'm pregnant and you not. And so Sarah had her kicked out. You got to read the whole story.
You got to read the whole story.
The issue here that we want to bring home is every single one of these issues they brought upon themselves.
That part, yes. We want you to see that.
Right, and then had to deal with God.
Yes.
Dealing with those issues.
Yes, yes.
And everybody's hurt.
Everybody's hurt. Everybody's hurt. Everybody's hurt.
Everybody's hurt.
Everybody's hurt.
You know, so the
lesson number 2.
Here, lesson number 2, right? The upshot here is God first.
Don't jump ahead of him.
Go to God.
Go to God.
All over the house. Go to God. Purple sticky note. Go to God. Yellow sticky note. Go to God.
All the colors. Yellow, pink,
everywhere.
Green, blue.
And as soon as something jumps up, your first, initial, immediate response.
Line of defense.
Go to God.
Go to God.
You're going to cut off a lot of the trouble.
Yes.
That happens in your life.
That is true.
Okay, so we're going to continue because we're not done with this. So my name is Dr. Sharon Norris Elliott.
I'm Lady Laura Simon.
Your life matters to God and to us and to everyone around you. And that's why we're here. Again, to talk these things through.
Yes.
And make it make sense.
Make it make sense.
So be with us again next time.